Okay, so today we are combining lessons 5.14 and 5.15. Okay, both of those lessons are about solving word problems using what you know about how you find area. Okay, we've been working, last week we worked a lot about finding the area of rectangles first by covering it using unit squares. Remember those tiles? Then we divided up into area model, right? Then we found out how area model is really the same as a what property? Distributed property. You're distributing those whole number parts to all the other parts and then the fraction parts to the other parts as well, right? Then we also said sometimes it's easier to use distributed property or area models, but also sometimes it's easier to use improper fractions, okay? So you just kind of had to see which one was better. Now today what we're going to do is we're going to take all of those different strategies we know to use to find area, but we're going to have to do it in a word problem or story problem context, okay? So that's why today your learning goal is to use what you know about finding area to solve word problems. Now this problem of the day, doesn't it just have to do with isn't it a word problem? Yeah, and isn't it about finding area as well? So does our problem of the day fit with our learning goal? Yeah, let's take a look at how to solve it. It says, George decided to paint a wall with 2 windows. Both of the windows are 3.5 feet by 4.5 feet rectangles. Find the area the paint needs to cover. Okay, so what's step 1? What should you have done first? Written down what the question is asking. Danielle, what's the question asking? Okay. Do we put paint on windows when we're painting the walls? No, we paint around the windows, right? So we need to find the amount of paint that will cover the wall, but we don't need to paint the windows. It's like this part, right? So if you're not sure what the question's asking, just act it out or draw it out, okay? What important information do we need in order to solve this problem? Reagan?
There are 2 windows on the wall. Both windows measure 3.5 feet by 4.5 feet.
Okay.
The wall is 12 7/8 foot by 8.
Very good. That's all the important information. Now, there was a diagram given to you, so you did not need to draw or label a diagram, but you could have if you wanted to. Now, without actually using any numbers or solving any problems, how could you describe the general process for solving this problem? Like, what do you need to do first, and then you need to do this, and then this? Like, what's the general idea? Itai?
So, first, what I did was I found the area of one window.
Okay.
And multiplied it by 2, because we need to find the area of 2 windows.
Okay, so you need to find the area of how much space those 2 windows take up on the wall, and then what else do you need to find? You need to find the total area of the wall, and then you take away what?
The area of both the windows from the total area of the wall.
You got it. Okay, so let's try that. First, we need to find the total area of the wall. How can I find the area of the entire wall, including the windows and everything like that? Ella?
You can multiply 12 by 8 feet.
Okay. Now, in this case, should we use improper fractions or should we use distributed property? What do you think? We could distribute that 8. We could do 8 times 12, right? And then we could also do 8 times 7/8. When we see that the denominator is the same as the whole number, is it a good idea to multiply using distributed property? Yeah, so we can do 12 times 8, which is 96. And then 7/8 times 8, which is?
7.
And then I just add that together. 96 plus 7 is? 103 square feet. Is that my final answer?
No.
Basish, why is 103 square feet not my final answer?
103 square feet is not the final answer because you have to subtract the area of the 2 windows by 103 feet.
Okay, very good. So how can I find the area of one window? Arun?
You can multiply its size, which is 4.5 feet by 3.5 feet.
Okay. Now in this case, are these numbers pretty small?
Yeah.
So can we just do improper fractions? Okay. 4 and 1/2 is the same as what improper fraction, Arhan?
9 halves.
9 halves, okay. And then 3.5 is the same as?
7 halves.
Okay. So 9 times 7 is? 63. 2 times 2 is? So 63/4 is the same as? 15 and 3/4. Now that's for one window, right? So I have to multiply that by? So I have to do 15 and 3/4 times 2. Can I use distributed property here? I could do 15 times 2 and then 3/4 times 2, right? 15 times 2 plus 3/4 times 2. What's 15 times 2? What's 3/4 times 2? 1.5. So what's 30 plus 1.5? Okay. So I know that the areas take up 31.5 square feet total. So what I can do is I can take the total area, which is 103 feet, and I can take away 31.5 feet. So I have 103 minus 31.5. What's 103 minus 31? Everyone? 70, what? 72. If I take another 1/2 away from that, what do I get? 71.5 square feet is the total amount of area that needs to be painted. So if each student originally had a square, this is step 3 where you draw and label, right? If this is one student's square, how much is it on each side? Originally, 8 inches. It was an 8-inch by 8-inch square, right? But then when they sewed it, they had to fold part of it under. So they would lose this part, and this part, and this part, and this part. Do you see that? Okay. And so how much would they lose on each edge? 3/4, right? So if I zoomed it in, I could see that from here to here would be 3/4 of an inch. Okay. And also from here to here would also be 3/4 of an inch. Does this remind you of any problem we've done in the past? Isn't it like the problem, remember the one of the picture that was on a mat? Right? Yeah. Okay. Very good. For problem number A, it says to draw one way the squares could be arranged to make a rectangular quilt, which we just did. Then it says to find the perimeter of your arrangement. Remember, perimeter means the distance around the entire outside. So how can we find the total perimeter? Well, let me ask you a question. If this is one kid's square, and I zoom in and it looks like this, what's the distance from here to here? From here to here. What's the distance? Is it 8 inches? Because it's lost 3/4 on each side, huh? So what's the length of one from here to here after it's been sewn? We have to do 8 minus what? 3/4 on this side, and also how much on this side? 3/4. What's 3/4 plus 3/4? 1.5. Yeah. So this distance right here from here to here would be 8 minus 3/4 minus 3/4, wouldn't it? Okay, so what's 8 minus 3/4 minus 3/4? Otherwise known as 8 minus 1.5. 6.5 inches. Okay, and that means from here to here, it's also what? 6.5 inches. Now, once you know that information, can you find the perimeter? You would have to do, I would have to do 6.5 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to find this length, right? And then 6.5 times 4 to find that one. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay, so let's first identify what is the question asking us to find. Alexander? Okay, let's underline that so we know that we're trying to find the area. Then we need to identify the important information. What's important in this one, Alexander? Okay, so we know that the length is 4 times as long and the width is 3/8. Okay, so then step 3 is to draw and label a picture. What shape should we make the flower bed? A rectangle. Okay, do we know how wide it is? Yes. How wide is the rectangle? 3/8 of a meter. Make sure you label it as well, because if you don't, you won't know what the right label should be. And then what's the length? Does it say the length is 8 meters? No, it says the length is 4 times as long as its width. So that means we have to take 3/8 times 4 meters. Okay, what is 3/8 times 4? It's 12 over 8, right? Which is the same as 1.5 meters. Okay, so if we know now that the width is 3/8 of a meter and the length is 1.5 of a meter, how can we find the area? Because as Alex pointed out, the question's asking us to find the area. We can multiply 3/8 times 1.5. Very good. What should we do, Ben?
You should do 1 1/2.
Okay, let's do that. So it's 3/8 times 12/8, right? 3 times 12 is? Wait, is there anything we can simplify? 12 and 8 are both multiples of? They are multiples of 2, but even better, they're both multiples of?
4.
So 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 12 divided by 4 is? Now we have 3 times 3 equals 9. 2 times 8 equals? Good. And then our units should be square meters.